So you want to know how to do Disneyland without Genie Plus? Because you can definitely have a perfectly fun day without it. And that includes hitting just about every Lightning Lane attraction. We've got 6 rules to beat Genie Plus, and they're coming up next, fresh baked. Genie Plus, Lightning. You can really do a number on standby at Disneyland, but there is definitely a way to maximize your Disneyland day without buying it. You can hit just about all of those Lightning Lane attractions while doing it without waiting for an hour or more for any attraction. And there will still be plenty of time to hit some of your other favorites like Pirates of the Caribbean, Jungle Cruise, or, your favorite Fantasyland dark rides. We've got 6 rules to help guide you through your day, 6 rules to beating Genie Plus. Rule number 1 is rope drop. There is only one way to fully maximize your Disneyland day, and that's to start your day at rope drop. If you aren't at Disneyland for rope drop, you're already playing catch up. You're behind. Whatever your plans are for the day, whether it's to hit as many attractions as physically possible or to simply try and do your favorite things as quickly as possible, both goals are best served starting at 8 a.m. Even better, if you can, be earlier than that, because there are a lot of other guests that are going to be rope dropping with you. So if you're ready to be there at 8 a.m., go ahead and be ready to be there at 7:30 a.m. Even 7:45 sets you back a bit, as you're now well back in the rope drop group, rather than near the front of that group. And this could cost you, a good 10 or 20 minutes at your first attraction. And those minutes count this early in the morning. Every minute counts at rope drop. So the next question you have to answer is, what are your goals? Are you trying to hit a ton of rides, or are you just trying to maybe hit all the Lightning Lane type rides? Well, as it turns out, our answer to both of these questions is the same, and it takes us to rule number 2. Start at Tomorrowland. Start at Tomorrowland and start at Space Mountain. Of all the attractions at Disneyland, Space Mountain is the most consistently long. It's also the most popular attraction for rope droppers. With the exception of Rise of the Resistance, perhaps. But we're going to get to that in a minute. Miss a chance to hit Space Mountain in about 10 minutes at rope drop, and you're in for an hour or more wait later on in the day. Now, getting back to rule number 1. Once you've handled Space Mountain, stay in Tomorrowland and go ahead and hit a couple more Lightning Lane attractions while you're there. This is why you start at Tomorrowland, because they've got 4. Buzz Lightyear, Star Tours, and Autopia are still left. Hit any of your favorites among those now. 1 or all 3. Mix to your taste. But if done correctly and with a little bit of luck, you can probably do, I would say, at least 3 of those in the first hour. From there, we recommend Matterhorn next, which brings us to rule number 3. Take advantage of single rider. Matterhorn, Star Tours, Splash Mountain, and Smuggler's Run have it. Space Mountain and Indiana Jones used to have it, but as of this recording, they do not. But it's quite possible, even likely, that they're both brought back later on. You can skip single rider, though, for Star Tours, because there's really no benefit to it at all. But the Matterhorn is a great option and a very useful one at this time of day. From there, my personal recommendation is Indiana Jones. But there's also, Big Thunder and Small World. It depends on what your personal preferences are here. But pick one of those 3 as the next one. I choose Indiana Jones because it takes us towards in the direction that I want to do, other rides in that area. But the actual ride choice you make here doesn't matter as much as the fact that you're still trying to hit Lightning Lane attractions right now, which takes us to rule number 4. Focus on Lightning Lane for the first 2 or 3 hours if you can, and save those attractions that have, sort of smooth moving queues, or as we often refer to them, the ones that go quick though. As in, look at that long Pirates queue. Yeah, but it goes quick though. There are fewer of these today than there used to be, but I generally include rides like Pirates, Jungle Cruise, and the Fantasyland dark rides. Save those attractions for the late morning and early afternoon. Save those attractions for when everyone else is using their Lightning Lane passes. Lightning Lane passes are typically used most often in the middle of the day. That's because it's a good idea to not use them early in the morning because they're not necessary, and you're saving them for when they are more valuable. And it's also typical for fewer Lightning Lane passes to be used in the last couple of hours in the late evenings of the day. It's more likely that they've already been redeemed. As, they're limited. You can only use 1 Lightning Lane per attraction, so, they're already spent typically. So try to get as many Lightning Lane rides in within the first couple of hours, and then start looking at Pirates, etc., in the early afternoon. So at this point, having been on, let's say, Space Mountain, Star Tours, Buzz Lightyear, we're skipping Autopia for later perhaps, then Matterhorn, hopefully Indiana Jones, it should be around 11 a.m. That's a great start. Your results may vary, but it's definitely possible to do these 5 attractions within the first 2 or 3 hours on the outside, but even that I feel like is pretty easy. From here, I'd go ahead and look at Pirates, Jungle Cruise, and the Fantasyland Dark Rides. Take the path of least resistance. That is, if you see any one of these attractions with a queue that you're not crazy about, then save it for later and go to the next one. Which takes us to rule number 5. Don't be a slave to the program. With respect to Lightning Lane, look for opportunities. And by that I mean it's sometimes backwards. For example, let's say you weren't able to get on the Matterhorn in the morning for some reason, and you see that the wait time is posted at 85 minutes. That's a no, right? Stay away. But that's also what everyone else is thinking. So in a matter of maybe 15 or 20 minutes after the Matterhorn hits that peak of 85, nobody's going to get in that standby queue. And the wait is now, after those 15 or 20 minutes, it could be down to 45 minutes or maybe even less. The thing is that the app can't keep up with what's happening in real time. So look at the standby queue. Then look at the Lightning Lane queue. If the standby queue isn't wrapping around the backside of the mountain, and if the Lightning Lane queue is thin as well, that's not an 85-minute queue, despite what the app says. Take that opportunity to hit Matterhorn right there. Now, the opposite is also true, and it often happens right after a ride breaks down. When a ride breaks down, it goes offline on the app. When it returns, the wait time is reset to 5 or 10 minutes. And that's a huge signal to anyone looking at the app, and they say, oh my gosh, it's only 10-minute wait now. That's an opportunity, right? But if you're not in the neighborhood and you have to walk a ways to get there, by the time you get there, it's already too late. And the wait is actually back at its typical wait time, or sometimes even more. So you should be looking for high wait times. Look for high wait times that aren't actually high, rather than low wait times that probably aren't actually low. So that's 5 rules so far. So we might as well talk about rule number 6 for beating Genie Plus, and that's how you handle Rise of the Resistance. Rule number 6 says, put off going on Rise of the Resistance as long as possible. Why? Well, because there's really no beating Rise. You either pay to walk on, or you're going to be waiting a bit and standby. There's no shortcut. You can try to rope drop it, but I don't recommend this at all, because so are a bunch of 1,000 other guests. So unless you're ready to wait outside the front gates at 7 a.m. to ensure that you're the first one through, thus ensuring you're near the front of the rope drop group that's assembling at Frontierland, and then you're also ready to speed walk to Rise in the hopes of being near the front of the queue when the ride opens. So unless you're ready to do all of that and still have to get lucky a bit to be near the front, rope dropping Rise doesn't guarantee you any sort of discount on the standby wait. It's going to be an hour. In fact, it's more likely to be an hour at 9 a.m. or 8:30 a.m. than it is later on in the day, which we're going to get to. Now you can watch the app for super long waits, like we mentioned before, something like 2 hours. A long wait for Rise is 2 hours. And then do a drive-by to see if the queues reconcile with a 2-hour wait. But you need to be in the neighborhood for that to work as well. So what I suggest is trying to put it off until you do find the right time. And so far, the best we've been able to observe is later is better than earlier. Perhaps maybe, the last 2 hours before closing. But do be advised that Rise usually closes before the park does. For example, if the park closes at midnight, Rise won't be joining them. It often closes between, let's say, 8 and 9 p.m. This is due to the frequent technical issues that come up. They just have to shut it down, at a certain point. So I suggest getting into the standby queue at around 7 p.m. We did this recently and found a wait time of around 30 minutes to get to the shuttle and about 45 minutes to get to our actual ride vehicle, which is amazing. You see, my feeling is that by this time, most Lightning Lane reservations will have been redeemed. In fact, they stopped issuing Lightning Lanes, by 4 or 5 o'clock often. So it's more likely to be pure standby at this point. It's certainly more likely, at least, to be the case than it would be, let's say, in the mid-afternoon. That's prime time for Lightning Lane redemptions. And since we're spending our morning hitting as many other Lightning Lane attractions as possible, we're not going to do Rise then, and that leaves evening for Rise of the Resistance. But you have to budget your time for this. We suggested earlier, that you should be hitting any Lightning Lane attractions you missed in the morning for the evening. But you can't be doing that and waiting in the rise queue at the same time. So there may be cases where you have to choose. Do I want to ride a bunch of rides, or do I want Rise of the Resistance? In some cases, the answer to the rise question is to not do it at all. If your priority is maximum number of rides, you skip Rise of the Resistance. Now, before we wrap, let's get back to that itinerary we've been working on. When we left last, we were hitting the Goes Quick Though attractions, non-Lightning Lane attractions. You could do this for a solid 3 or 4 hours, with an average of maybe 45 minutes each, which includes time spent walking. That's around 4 to 6 rides: Pirates, Jungle Cruise, Dark Rides. Hopefully, at this point, it's still just 4 p.m., and the next few hours are now your call. You can catch up on Lightning Lanes, Autopia, Splash Mountain, Haunted Mansion, Roger Rabbit, Small World, Big Thunder. Maybe ride the train, ride the monorail, ride the Mark Twain. So maybe another 3 hours for any combination of, let's say, 3 or 4 of those that we just listed. Then hopefully it's 7 p.m., and that's when you decide if you want to ride Rise of the Resistance or catch up on the rest of the Lightning Lane attractions that you missed in the morning and afternoon. But really, anything that you do after, let's say, 2 or 3 p.m. is at your discretion. I feel like this strategy is designed just to get your day started optimally. The best way to spend your first 4 or 5 hours. Taking advantage of that start allows you to handle the rest of your day at your leisure, so to speak. So with that, let's wrap up our 6 rules for beating Genie Plus. Number 1, rope drop. If you can, be there by 7:30. Number 2, start in Tomorrowland. Spend your first hour there, maybe your first 90 minutes doing as much as you can. Number 3, take advantage of single rider if you can. Matterhorn, Smuggler's Run, Splash Mountain. Number 4, save the rides that go quick though for late morning and early afternoon. Number 5, look for long wait times throughout the day on the app. Those could be opportunities for short waits. And number 6, put off Rise of the Resistance until about 7 p.m. And if you're really trying to maximize your ride count, think about skipping it entirely. Use those last hours to catch up on other rides you missed throughout the day. Save Rise for another visit, perhaps. So I hope this helps everyone. We'll be putting these rules to the test in future episodes of Fresh Baked. This strategy is for Disneyland only, but we do have a video coming up where we do some recon on how best to beat DCA with no Genie Plus as well. And then hopefully we'll have a formal strategy guide for that. Until then, follow us on Instagram at _FreshBaked, on Twitter at FreshBakedDisney, that's fresh with no E, and on TikTok at FreshBakedDisney. If you like our show and want to show you support, please do consider joining our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/freshbaked. Otherwise, thanks again for watching, everybody. We love you very much. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. And Fresh Baked.